Hello, hello.
Uh,
Good morning, good evening. Uh, Thank you so much, Alex, and welcome back to the stream. I think it's been a long time that we had you on the stream, and I'm super excited. And I think this is going to be a really interesting one for the audience that are watching out today. And before we jump in, just wanted to throw some light on what are we talking about. I know we already spoke about this briefly in the last one. So we'll be talking more about how do you integrate your local models and how do you run them using Zencoder. So I think the best person to explain, best person to talk more about it will be Alex. So yeah, Alex, all yours. The stage is all
yeah.
yours.
Thank you, and hello everyone. Nice to be back. I'm actually currently at a conference in Manchester. Just had my talk like a couple hours ago, and yeah, I guess I now have multiple events, not in the week, but in a day. So yeah, I guess just to set some stage for what we are going to talk about. So in Zencoder, as long as with any other similar products, usually you have a choice of a bunch of models, right, which are coming from third-party providers like Anthropic, OpenAI, whatnot. So you get the Sonnet, you get GPT-5, or GPT-5.1, of course, Gemini, but they all are living in the cloud, living in the third-party provider cloud, and we talk to a lot of clients who are more security cognizant, I guess. They don't want the code to leave the premise. They don't want the information to leave the premise. And there are also different ways around it. So some model providers, they allow to use their models through different clouds. So let's say on GCP, on Google Cloud, you have Vertex, which allows you to use Anthropic models, for example. And that's their own Anthropic deployment inside the Google Cloud. So if you are fine with your code living inside the Google Cloud premise, then you can leverage that. The same goes with the OpenAI. So you can have OpenAI installation on Azure, and then you are sort of bound by the Azure premise, and your code doesn't leave that premise. And then there are also, of course, some companies which have their own data centers, and then it becomes quite a tricky situation, right? So you can't really use, for security reasons, you can't use any third-party providers directly. You can't use Anthropic directly. At the same time, you can't also leverage those cloud offerings from Google, from AWS, from Azure. So you are kind of, stuck, I guess, with either some simple solutions, or you are not using AI at all. And in this day and age, I think that's kind of something that puts you behind, because of course a lot of companies nowadays are using AI to speed up development, and I think it's an important factor nowadays to consider when you are thinking about all the new features you want to develop, all the new products you want to introduce to the market, and so on. And it is especially so important for large companies. Now, what we have on this front, which we just recently released, and that I will be talking about today, is essentially the ability for you, for Zencoder users, to bring your own custom models. Now, before that, you could bring your own custom keys, right? So you could bring your key for OpenAI, for Anthropic, I think for Gemini as well. But it will still go to that cloud provider, to that model provider cloud, basically. Now, with custom models, you can define, you are in control essentially of where your code goes to, which cloud provider or which model, which endpoint. And of course, you can still leverage the same Vertex or Bedrock deployments. You just need to provide a different endpoint. But what it also allows you to do is to self-host models if you are in that part of the model world. If you have a lot of GPUs, or maybe you're like me, you are traveling a lot and you usually don't have access to internet on the planes, unfortunately, still. And but you kind of have your own personal laptop with 128 gigabytes of memory. Just flexing here. But yeah, maybe you are in that category, and maybe you want to still be able to use AI to help you with coding or answer questions or whatever. And of course, there are ways to deploy models both locally or, especially if you have GPUs, it is much easier. But essentially and let me share the screen here. It's actually my first time doing the demo from my personal laptop, so I'm a bit nervous. But I couldn't help but flex my laptop running GPT OSS 120B locally. So yeah, basically what Zencoder now allows you to do is provide or add any model of your choosing to Zencoder and use that alongside with all the features we already have inside Zencoder. So you can see there is a link, there is document page here. I think Shantanu can send the links in the chat, but basically once you add the models which you want to run, they would appear in the model selector drop down, similar to this. And this is how you actually do this. So this is an example settings.json file, which defines all the different models you want to add to Zencoder to be able to leverage them inside the plugin, inside your IDE. And as I mentioned, they can, of course, be self-hosted. So here's an example of a self-hosted model hosted through Llama. So essentially, you are just pointing Zencoder to localhost endpoint. And then over here, you don't need API key because it's locally hosted. And then you just define which models you want to be able to run locally. And that's pretty much it. You can play with different options, different parameters like temperature, different capabilities. There is, I think, there is a reference just below the config. So if the model supports image input, you can also turn this capability on. Just be aware that not all models support image input. But otherwise, you can essentially just get any model either locally or on your GPU servers or just on your GPU-enabled computer and run them inside Zencoder. So let me actually, with that, switch to my Zencoder over here. Is it still visible? Shantanu, can you just confirm that? Okay, great. So yeah, I have here quite a few different models. So I labeled them for myself, which one are local, which are cloud-based models. So you can see I have quite a few local models. We'll be using 120B, GPT OSS 120B locally, just to, as an example, create a simple hello world, right? So it actually works quite fast, but my laptop is not happy. It's making some noises when I run this model, and not happy noises. But just to let's wait for it to start, and I will actually show my activity monitor in a second to show that it is actually running locally. And yeah, it can take some time because it is quite a large model, right? 120B is it occupies around 61 gigabyte of memory on my laptop, so it takes some time to load it. And I hope it's not a demo effect. Okay, great. So it started working. So you can see it can use tools pretty much as any other model. And let me actually show the activity monitor over here. And it should be showing now. Yeah, there's a llama running consuming half of my memory on my laptop for GPT OSS 120B. And well, it can be a bit slow. I guess it is also due to me streaming this, because before the stream it was much faster. But I would assume that the tools also consume a lot of memory, and CPU power. So that's the issue. But yeah, as you can see, it basically started. It didn't start in reading using all the tools, and well, overall, I would say that even though the time to first token was a bit longer than you would get with third-party providers, right? But that is also because it is quite a large model. So we can actually try to do the same with a smaller model. Let me start a new chat. And let me try this one, GPT OSS 20B, which should be much smaller. Let's see. Let's make sure that Llama actually will free the memory, just so that we don't. Okay, great. And with a smaller model, it should actually be a bit faster, hopefully. Again, I'm streaming the screen now, so it can potentially affect this. But it should be, and I can hear my laptop starting to, fans on my laptop starting to spin up. But yeah, as you can see, the time to first token was much faster for smaller model, which is expected. But otherwise, once it gets to the past the first token, essentially once it gets to the main stuff, right, with the tool views and whatnot, the speed of the output is actually pretty fast on my laptop. And I'm using Mac. I'm on MacBook M3 Max, so previous generation of 2 generations ago, actually. So, but yeah, it is still able to run models locally pretty nicely. You can see in this case, it actually, I think it found the file which was created by the previous run, in the previous chat, by 120B. And yeah, basically, again, you can easily now use any model locally if you want to, right? Again, in my case, I had quite a few of them. Or, of course, you can also attach any third-party provider, any third-party cloud provider if they serve models. Like, for example, those 3 models, like GPT-OSS and Kimi K2, I think they're, if I recall correctly, they're coming from Ollama. I thought they also had Grok, but I guess not. Grok with a Q, not the one from, not with a K, but there is also model provider called Grok, GROQ, which is also quite fast. So I think I guess I don't have it on my personal laptop, but yeah, that's also another option. So you can also bring not just self-host models, but models from any third-party provider. Again, here those cloud models are from Ollama. From Ollama endpoint. I think we have a reference for that as well in the docs. Yeah, over here. So you can of course connect to any cloud model provider. So in this case, it is Ollama. You just provide the base URL, provide your API key. In this case, it is needed because it is it's not self-hosted. And then you can again define any models which you might want to use inside Zencoder with your agents. Now, selecting models is a bit tricky. Of course, a lot of open source models, they are getting better. And I don't know if some people are able to follow these, some people not. So just so that we are on the same page, on the benchmarks at least, still third-party models from large laboratories like OpenAI, Anthropic, they are still at the top, right? So, for example, Anthropic recently released Opus 4.5. Right, so, and I think it got 80% on the SVE bench, which is still a far reach for open source models like Kimi or DeepSeek or GPT-OSS. But if you are more sort of security conscious, if you want to use AI to help you code on the plane, that is something that you want to look into. And you still might want to play around with different models. They do excel at different tasks. And also, as you can see, so in this case, for example, here, they of course come in different sizes. And in this case, in case of the models, size of course matters. So GPT-OSS 120B would perform much better than GPT-OSS 20B. So if you want better quality and if you can afford to run 120B versus 20B, of course, I would recommend to prefer this compared to smaller model. But still, even like models, well, you've seen GPT-OSS 20B, for example, right? Even though the task here was rather simple, it still was able to properly use the tools. Well, the first tool call was probably not the best one, but it was able to recover, right? It was able to do all the proper stuff. It was able to generate the code, essentially do all the things that you would expect the larger model to do. And it was just 20B, again, running locally. And yeah, essentially, with this, you can now, you're not now limited to just models from large laboratories like Anthropic. You can play around with pretty much any model provider. You can play with pretty much any model, and again, both locally or through the cloud. Yeah, and here's also instructions on where to configure. And I think Shantan already sent a link to this documentation in the chat. Right. So I think on the model provider thing, that is all that I have to show. Shantanu, do we have any questions in the chat?
No, Alex, we don't have any questions.
Okay.
But yeah, if in case anybody has any questions, anything that you want to ask Alex or me, just drop them in the chat. We'll pick them up and happy to answer. But I have one small question from my side.
Sure.
So, I mean, how does the MCP configuration work? Do we need to do something else, or is it the same as it was before with these models?
Yeah, so let me actually share the screen back. So on the MCP, you don't need to do anything, I believe. So, well, all those tool calls are MCP tool calls, right? They are coming from our predefined tools, Zencoder tools. But otherwise, I don't think you need to do anything, because the nice thing about all the different models, all different model providers, all different frameworks like Olama, they are usually compatible with some standards like OpenAI or Anthropic. So you can see here in the config actually that the type is, in this case, OpenAI compatible, which means that tools are also provided or consumed by them in the same way as they would be consumed by OpenAI or Anthropic, respectively. So I don't think you need to be doing something specific. One caveat, though, especially with the smaller models, of course, they have a smaller context window. And I actually experienced this myself. Depending on how many tools you have, it might basically overflow the context window. And that would mean that all the things that overflown, they would be lost for the model. And this would affect the quality. That would affect the behavior of the model. So my first attempts on running, say, GPT-OSS20B locally, fully locally, failed. I think I had quite a few MCPs. Like I think I had GitHub MCP, which had 50 tools, which obviously for 20B model is quite a lot of tokens. And yeah, essentially, you might want to be cognizant of that when you are using any tools along with the agents. And with Zencoder, of course, you can create custom agents and you can limit access to tools, right? So you can define which tools are available to the agent. So that should help, so that if you are running some small models, especially small models with a small context window, they would not get overpowered by a bunch of tools. And actually, on that note, one other I mentioned Grok, the one with the Q, GROQ, the model provider. They, for example, if I'm not mistaken, they have the limit of number of tools available to the agent. So the upper limit for the number of tools is 127, I think. So I actually got an error once where I had apparently 400 tools. I don't know where they came from. I think I had smaller number of tools, but apparently according to Grok, I had 400 tools. And yeah, once I removed GitHub MCP with 50 tools, somehow I was able to hit the 127 limit. So that is one other thing that you need to be aware of when it comes to MCP. But those are, I guess, more of specifics of either smaller models or models with a smaller context window or specific providers. In general, you don't need to do anything specific on the MCP side to give access to tools to those models.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that, Alex. I don't see any questions popping up in the chat. I think we can close it off for the day. Any final note, any small note that you want to share before we say goodbye to the folks?
Well, I guess first of all, when there is no questions, it's either everything is clear or nothing is clear. I hope it's the former, not not a later. But yeah, I guess yeah. With this, you can now essentially experiment with any models, and it's I think you get new model pretty much every day. Well, maybe not every day, but there is definitely once every week there is a new announcement of a new model. And now with this, you can essentially experiment, see what works for you, see what works for your tasks. Right? Maybe again, some models work better for simple tasks, and you don't want to spend tokens on those. You can just run the model locally. Or again, I actually now want to. I will be flying tomorrow, so maybe I will get a chance to finally do AI assisted coding right on the plane. I'm not sure how much the battery would work for in this case, especially if I try to run 120B, but we'll see.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much for throwing light on this new feature. I think a lot of people will enjoy this out. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them on Discord, Slack, or send us an email. If I can answer, I'll try my best, or I'll just redirect these complicated questions to Alex. But yeah, once again, thank you so much, folks, for joining in. I hope you learned something interesting about Zencoder. Then, till then, take care, have a good one, and I'll see you again next week.
Thank you.